what
Yeah.
are we exposing our kids to? And I think that's an important thing to talk about. And I think it should hopefully resonate with anyone that has kids. Like I don't have kids, but I'm already thinking about my future kid,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking
Well,
about
and the
them
thing
because I
about,
want to protect
what's
them.
funny is with this, sometimes people just feel hopeless about it. Like I'll talk
Yeah.
about this and they just go, "Good grief, Christopher." Like after hearing you talk about this, like
Right.
I don't even know what to do with it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
it's actually a lot simpler than you realize. Because when you start talking about it, we start opening the door for conversations to make people go, okay, well, maybe I can't change. Maybe I'm not like Christopher. I don't sit on these AI boards who can say, no, as a company, we need to say we will not let our technology be used for this. Period. I can have that influence. Maybe you don't, and that's okay. You don't have to be that. But what you can do is go, well, but I can start talking about it like you. I'm at a heavy bag talking about something, and suddenly you realize that it's not quite as culturally celebrated as we like to think. We tell ourselves that so we feel better about it. But I remember when I was in college, I worked construction. And these were some of the roughest people I have ever been around. And I
Sure.
was in New Orleans for a summer. And I spent summer on Bourbon Street. And at the time, I was, I. What's funny is I, as much as I've have a very unique past, there's only ever been one woman I've ever been involved with, and that's my wife. And I remember when I was down in New Orleans, the guys, these rough and tough guys, they just they would just razz on me all the time, be like, "Come on, like, take a girl home. Like, how do you, whatever." And I'm like, "No, no, I'm not. Like,
Good for
that's not
you.
who I am." And I remember they would just, for a while, when we first went down there, they would mock me, they would tease me, they would make fun of me. But when they saw that I just was like, yeah, I mean, you guys can make fun of me all you want. Like, you're not getting anything of value. I know you think you are, but I know you're not. And I would be really open about the conversations with it. And I wouldn't go, I don't do it because Jesus says. Like, I would just be like, I see what you guys get. Like, there's nothing satisfying about what? You go sleep with somebody and then you're miserable the next day because you don't even know their name. Like, yeah, that sounds real appealing to me. And I would just be straight with them,
Right.
and it did not take long before they started opening up to me about how they hate this. They
Yeah.
hated it about themselves, but they had been conditioned to believe that this is what normal is. This is what you're supposed to do. As a guy, you're supposed to feel this way. As a guy, the more girls you've taken home, the more manly you are. And when all of a sudden you finally find somebody that goes, that's a lie, and you know it, and I'm not judging you for it, and I'm not sitting here looking down on you going, I've never done it. You're
Sure.
disgusting. But actually going, I see what you're in, and I don't want it. And honestly, I had one guy who was like, at the end of the summer, I still remember this because he came up to me crying, and he's like, I am so sorry for trying to drag you away from being ethical and for
Mm.
actually caring about women. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like sobbing. He's like, I can't believe I tried to force you into that to make myself feel better about what I was doing.
Oh man, hit the nail on the
And
head
I
right
remember
there.
being like, it's okay, man. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. I'm not judging you for it. I get it. We've all been conditioned. And so going back to this, just having conversations about these, being open about the fact that nobody's looking at porn and going, this just makes me a better person. And I really wish more people knew about it. And I've talked to people who've been in the industry and they're like, I hated every day of my life. It was miserable. I was empty. I was hollow. But I had lots of money to fill the void, to tell myself it was fine. Everybody told me that I was the apex of progress in society. And this is what real freedom looked like. And I was a slave and I hated it, but they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to admit that. They're afraid to be honest about what they're really going through because they're afraid that everybody else will look at them and go, what's wrong with you? When
Yeah.
really society's going, feel the same way, but I don't want to be the one to say it. And so that's where fighting against this is not about, how do we ban every adult website on
Yeah.
the web?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
How
Yep.
do we
Yep.
shut down AI? Like,
Yeah.
No, how do we just have honest, raw conversations and
Yep.
share our stories with people? Because real transformation starts in your heart. And once
Beautiful.
your heart starts transforming, suddenly the people around you start transforming. And I just think, like I said, I've got 8 kids. My oldest is a boy and he's 14. I'm not repeating the sins of my father. We
Yeah. Beautiful.
talk.
Yeah.
We talk about it. My kids know when they're old enough, they know the struggle daddy has been through and the lengths that daddy goes to make sure that that never becomes part of my story again. They know that it's real. They know all the things that are coming after them, garnering them for their attention. We talk about where it comes from. And the thing is, I would have never talked to my parents. And
Yeah,
my kids
man.
talk. They
Yeah.
talk about it. They're like, "Daddy, like, what do you think about this? Like, what is inappropriate? Why does it matter?" Like, they know this. Even my daughters are very concerned about wanting to make sure that they do everything they can to protect their brothers and other men as they grow up because they don't want to be a stumbling block. And not because they've been shamed into thinking your
Yeah.
body is disgusting and you need to cover it. No, no, it's because they
Yep.
genuinely care and they understand the impact that they can have and they want to be a force for good. And it all came from just talking openly and honestly with one another.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Because I think that's something I wanted you to share on this podcast is like for all the parents out there or people like me that want to be a parent someday is how do you address this and it speaks so you spoke so eloquently about it and it really goes to the root of it is just talking about it and talking about it with honesty and also just having a space for it, right? Because I think that was something that I never really felt. I think for when I look back at my childhood, I think I love my parents. They're fantastic. But we never really I feel like I never really had that sex talk, as much with them. And I feel like that if there would have been more of a conversation, more just knowing that it was there. And of course, those are things I think parents probably tell kids is like, "Hey, you can tell me anything." But I think probably when I look back at it, like at my dad, I'm not sure like really if he had much of a concept about how like the environment that I was in,
Yeah.
where what I was doing. And I feel like just like you where when I think about my future kid, I know I can have that conversation because I was there and I understand it. And I have a it's almost like you have to develop it's like learning a new language. You have to understand how the language is spoken sometimes to
Yeah.
have that conversation, you know?
And it's
So,
something you have to
yeah,
build. It's something you
yeah,
have to build. I mean, that's one of the things that I think, you know, I won't get into too many details, but like I didn't learn this from my parents. So for me, it's just been a
right,
journey of discovering and that's where scripture's been so helpful because I look at how Jesus treated people and how he spent time with the outcasts. And it's not because he was trying to get in with them or try and, impress them. And it was because he wanted to really understand what they were going through. And so, like, I think of with my kids, like, I deeply care about them and I
right,
respect them as equal human beings. Yes, I'm in a position of authority right now because as children, I have an authority role over them, but that's going to change. And so they're equal image bearers to me. And I want to understand them, the way their world works, the things that matter to them, what they're dealing with. And I want to come to them on their level, not come down and go, when daddy was your age, this is what it was. I want to sit with them and go, what is it like to be 14 today?
right.
What kinds of things do you encounter? Tell me about it. Invite me in. Let me participate. And I always thought because of my growing up, I thought my kid would be like, get out of here, dad, leave me alone. Like, I don't want you around. And that's not the case at all. My kids love when I join their Minecraft servers. They think it's like the coolest thing ever. Dad comes in and like, I don't even know the language, but like I can come like jam with them and all their friends come hang out. They're like, oh my gosh, your dad, he's here. And it's not to be the cool dad. It's because I want to understand them. And it opens dialogue. My kids tell me things that I would have never told my parents. And my wife too. They talk to both of us just because they know, look, yeah, there's going to be lines. And when you cross them, there's going to be responsibility and accountability. And you know that. But it's not because we're here to punish you. It's not because we're here to make you into another version of ourselves. It's because we deeply care about you the way God cares about us. And we're
Mm.
here to help you not make the same mistakes we did. And hopefully, not make mistakes we probably never even would have known existed had we not gotten to know you. And I think that kind of stuff that doesn't happen because you follow some checklist. Make sure you go out with your kids once a week, or it's like you got to find the rhythms. But yeah,
That's fast. And so how young is your young? So you said your oldest is you said 14,
yeah,
and
my
then
youngest is
how?
7 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and
That's
people
so
always ask,
cool.
they're like, are there duplicates, triplets? Is it a blended family? I'm like, nope, nope, just a whole line of 8 kids. And what's funny is we weren't sure we wanted kids. I had some serious trauma growing up, and I didn't want history to repeat itself. And growing up in the church, I'd always heard the sins of the father. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
And my wife had her own stuff. And so we were really on the fence. And it's been funny how God has just kind of gone, no, you don't get to decide. I'm just
You're
going to
not on
keep
the
giving them
fence,
to
man.
you.
That
And I'm
that that
like, are
fence
you
is long
sure?
gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, well, okay, you obviously see something even we don't see, but it's truly been a chance to, and I feel like I learned more from them than I could ever teach them, which has been really healing for me as a dad to go, oh, this is what it means to love like a father. This is
Mm,
what it means to care and love unconditionally, and to, so I can relate now more to when God's like, I'm here for you.
yeah.
Yes, there's
Beautiful.
consequences, but I love you and you don't need to keep running from me. And I promise I will walk you through where you're going, because now I'm like, I never experienced that, but I know what it is to feel that and to have that desire now for 8 human beings and go, there isn't anything you could ever do that if you came and told me, I would go, oh,
Right, right.
really? Yuck. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. And then to know, and I'm imperfect. So if I can experience that and God's perfect, well, then I never need to be afraid to come to him.
I love that. And that's something too that I think was a big turning point, I think, in my recovery. And I think a big thing that I was going through when I was going through the divorce process and incredibly depressed. Uh, one of my Bible study leader, Trey, love the guy. I remember we were on the phone and he was just saying, like, Mac, like you are loved by God, and he's like, nothing that you did is unforgivable. And we started to talk just about different characters in the Bible, and I always remember that, and I always tell guys that is like, if you feel like you're unforgivable, open up a few pages and read.
Just read the heroes of the faith.
just
Like
just read a little bit.
Jacob is my favorite biblical misfit. The fact God did not give up on that man is beyond me.
Or like David
And
and what he did with Bathsheba and like her husband, like basically sent him, I think.
Abraham, I mean, they exploited
Yeah,
an Egyptian slave for kids. And you're like, God works through us in spite of us. And he's, like I said, there are consequences for our sin.
exactly. Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
But that doesn't change his love. And yeah, yeah, which I
And
think
and
love casts out all this stuff. And I think that's where
right.
even this topic of things, it's like most people I talk to who have struggled with porn, they've really struggled with being loved. They've struggled with feeling love, and they've been convinced that they can satisfy some sort of need through this. And it's just enough. It's just enough. It's not quite what I really desire. It's not quite what I want, but it satisfies me. It gets me through the day. And it's like, God has so much more for you than that. He's got so much
Right.
more for you than that. He doesn't want you to just get by. He wants you to be overflowing and outpouring in abundance of love. And but he can't, you're blocking him off when you're like, no, 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 just leave me over here and let me have my table scraps. Like, well, okay, is that really what you want?
Yeah, that made me think about, and I don't think I have the verse off the top of my head. I think it was in Luke where Jesus, I think it was the woman that washed his feet, I think. But there's a quote that really speaks to me. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's basically, "He who hath forgiven little, love little,"
Yeah,
if that strikes a chord with you. And when I remember that came up in one of my Bible studies, I think it was like last year with the guys. And what I really thought about that with like porn recovery was, I think I couldn't really even forgive myself. And that really restricted the kind of love that I could provide, my wife at the time, to other
yeah,
people. And then when you dig deeper into it, it was really, I wasn't really trusting that God could forgive me ultimately.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
we
then,
think we think we're doing a good job. We think we're doing a good thing, like by holding on to this. We're not.
yeah. And once you accept that forgiveness and lay yourself at his feet, lay yourself, I think, just if you're secular as well, just to be humble and to open yourself up to, hey, this is out of my control right now. Like, I need help. I think that was a huge thing for me. It really, 6 years ago, it really got me started on recovery, was actually going to a Christian therapist.
Yeah,
And I started listening to this podcast called Porn Free Radio. Remember, I went into the mountains and I fly fished for a whole weekend. And I listened to about 20 to 30 episodes of Porn Free Radio. I
yeah,
prayed. I was reading the Bible. I think I also read Jocko Willink's "Discipline Equals Freedom." So it was like this. I strapped myself up to this weekend of just separating myself. Yeah, like my ex at the time was like, "You need to just go.
yeah.
Just
Detox.
get out." And I went with my dog Bo. My grandparents, they built this cabin up in the mountains in Colorado, and I went there for the weekend and fly fish, journaled, was with my dog, listened to the podcast, read the Bible, all these things. But really, it was this experience of just opening myself up, past what I thought porn was,
Yeah,
I guess, this selfishness as well, and just opening myself up and humbling myself to, hey, there's like a whole other world out there that you can experience, but you have to address this thing in your life. You have to root it
yes,
out.
you do. We as a species hate looking in the mirror, and I'm convinced that's why James specifically says, when you look in the mirror of God's perfect law, like there's a reason he specifically calls that out, because he knows that is the only way you can actually change, is to actually accept and see what's really there. And we put filters over our mirrors, we cover them with sheets, we walk away, we stare out windows so we can point at everything else. And what we really need to do is take the filters off and just look in the mirror and go, oh, I hate what I see right now. And then take it to God and go, I hate what I see. And he goes, I know you do, but I don't.
Right.
I don't. I don't hate anything about what I see in that mirror, because you are perfectly and uniquely designed in my image. Have you been twisted? Have you been corrupted? Yeah, but you think I haven't seen this before? You think I haven't worked through this? You think I didn't know all this? You think I'm going to be disappointed that you think I got a raw end of the deal? When I made you, I didn't. I knew what I was signing up for. I got you. Like that, there's so much healing in that. I do a ton of executive coaching, and um, so many of these leaders you see that are just destroying companies, and when you really get them behind closed doors, they're wounded people
Yeah.
who have spent years building up walls and protecting themselves from who they really are afraid they'll see when they look in the mirror. And Yeah, it sucks. It sucks if you haven't looked in the mirror a long time. It's like if you are really disciplined about your weight and what you eat, and then you stop weighing yourself for like a year and stop stepping on the scale and you quit working out,
I've
and then
been,
all of
hey,
a sudden you step
I've
on and
been
you're like,
there.
"Whoop," like, oh, like you're like, oh my gosh, how did I let this happen? And you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
but God's always
So
like,
I
it's
wasn't
okay
stepping
though.
on the scale. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
okay.
and it's like, but it's okay. Like we can work through this. Um, and it's never too late. Like that's the thing. Like I said, I grew up in a funeral home and I watched people. We far take for granted how much time we have.
Great point. Yeah.
When I say life is tomorrow's not guaranteed, I've seen way too many people think they had tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. You don't. And AI can tell you, yeah, well, we'll fix that for you. We'll fix. No, it won't. It won't. You're gonna die. And sometimes that's what it takes to finally realize that maybe I should look in the mirror before that happens. Because yeah, yeah.